Hello there, and welcome to UK Diesel and Electric Railway Modelling. And in this video, I'm going to give my opinion on the Great Model Railway channel that was on Channel 5. Sorry, a challenge that was on Channel 5. I just watched the last couple of episodes today, the final heat, and then the final show itself. And I'm going to give some opinions here, and these are my opinions. I don't expect everyone to subscribe to them at all. You know, I'm just giving my ideas of what I thought to it. So if you don't, if you like the show, great. And you can already get a hint that I'm not so keen. So what are my feelings about it? Well, it was an entertaining show. You can certainly say that. And it was also interesting seeing a few people that I know on the show. For example, one of the judges, Steve Flint, I've spoken to him a few times here and there at shows. I watch Cathy Millatt's channel. And if you don't already subscribe to that channel, there's the link in the description. She's an excellent modeler and well worth subscribing to. Even, she does American railroading style, but she's an exceptional modeler. Now, I didn't really like the show. It's not that the show was particularly bad. It's just that it's the way it was done, and it really comes down to, for me, railway modeling is a craft. It's not something that you cobble together. It's something that takes weeks, months, years to build a layout. You don't just chuck it together in 2 days. And the modelers that I saw, the modelers that I know that are on that show, at least 3 members of the DMU Society I know of, Phil, Mark, and Ray, as well as a couple of other people that I've seen at various shows. I know that those modelers are capable of doing much better than what they were able to do in 2 days. And that's the problem. It comes down to, okay, we want you to build a model railway layout that really looks brilliant, and we want you to do that in 2 days. Well, I couldn't do that. If I was asked to be on that show, I would say no, I don't think I could, because I don't think I could give justice to a model railway in 2 days. Effectively, in my opinion, what most of them were producing were effectively toy train sets. It sounds a horrible thing to say, but when you've only got a limited amount of time, then you cobble something together as quick as you can. The scenery is not going to be fantastic. It's going to be adequate. And you saw this in the judges, where they were saying, well, we can still see bits of baseboard and things like that. Well, if you've only got 2 days and things run a bit late, or you think it's going to take 2 hours and it takes 2.5 hours, well, that half an hour lost is half an hour that you didn't get to do the static grass that you wanted to do, and things like that. There is a deadline, there is a time limit, and they had to play to that time limit. And this is the problem with all these things. If you look at any form of engineering that's been done with a price bracket, a price limit, or a time limit, then you work to the time limit. You don't work to the best that you can get. You work to the time limit. I'll give you a perfect example. East Coast Main Line. The East Coast Main Line electrification was done. All the trains were built to a certain price, which meant that, they weren't completely reliable. The Class 91s earlier in their lives, until they got turned into 91/1s, they were fairly notorious for unreliability. They expected to have, I don't even know what the number was. Let's say it's 90% reliability, and they only had 80 or whatever. They spent a lot of time having to get overhauls in works and things like that. They were worked hard, and they're great pieces of engineering, but the masts were placed further apart. If you go on Google Earth and you use the measuring tool, you look at the West Coast Main Line and you look at the East Coast Main Line, and the masts are further apart. Well, when you have the masts further apart, you're saving saving money on all the masts as you gradually go along. The problem is that all it takes is for the wind to be a little more blowy than normal, and suddenly wires are coming down. The wire itself was aluminium, not copper, so it was cheaper, but it's more likely to snap and things like that. So you have multiple elements. So when you have something that's made to a budget, you end up with, substandard is probably the wrong word, but certainly lower than you could really get. And that's how I feel that many of the certainly the heat level ones, I think many of them, I'm quite convinced, and I certainly from the modelers I know, I'm convinced that they would want to have done more than that. If they'd have had an extra day, let's create another strategy. Let's imagine that to make the show, what they do is they say, okay, you've got 3 months to build a layout. Okay, so clubs do it or whatever. Okay, so you got a group of people that spend 3 months building a layout. What happens is they either get the film crew come like once every couple of weeks or something like that, or they give a camera to the different layouts to say, okay, we want you to film your progress. In that kind of scenario, you're going to get an outstanding layout because they've got the time, they've got the ability to put the time and effort into it, and you're going to get something spectacular. And this is something that will be reflected in the standards of the model is concerned. So like I say, when you're limited to chucking something together, you're going to get something that's chucked together. You're not going to get quality. You're going to get quality within a budget that's restricted on time as well. Even if they had the same budget that they had for building this project in the 3 months, you would still get far and away, a better quality in that. So, like I say, that's the core of my criticism about it. It just felt rushed, and it also, there's another factor that kind of irritated me, was it felt like toy trains. And what I mean by that is, it seemed to be that gimmicks is what got you noticed. We need to have gimmicks. We need to have rockets coming out of cooling towers. Do you really get rockets firing out of cooling towers? I mean, unless it's something out of Austin Powers or, what's it, Thunderbirds, I mean, this isn't, when you've got spaceships turning around in circles and, dinosaurs, and it's like, dinosaurs and model railways are two things that don't go together. They don't. They really, really don't, And I know I sound like I'm a purist here, but, that's the way I am. This is my opinion. I don't expect everyone to accept it. This is just the way I see it. If you want to play toy trains, that's fine. But I mean, I remember seeing, this, I think it was a Triangle thing many years ago, and it was like a circus thing. And you've got a rocket that fires out the top and a giraffe, and it comes and goes under the bridge and pops back up again. This is a toy. This isn't model railways. This is a toy. And that's what was being reflected in a lot of these layouts. You need things moving and people running behind the car and, things like that. Again, that's a toy. That's not, yes, you can have certain things, but it takes time to get something that really looks good. You can have a level crossing gates and, that's fair enough. You got your moving trains already, things like that. Maybe moving cars, that's fine. But, just having spaceships and dinosaurs and, DeLorean spinning around, as well as they managed to achieve those, projects, it's still toy-like. And that's it makes me feel like, they were saying, yeah, this is what the guy, when you go to a toy shop and you see the model train stuff and you see old guys buying this, that's what they're building at home. Well, it's not. That's not what people build at home. They don't build rockets and dinosaurs on their layouts. People don't do that. This is something that, you know, you might do if you're making something for your 12-year-old child or an 8-year-old child, maybe even, you know, probably more like it. You know, they like that kind of thing, but you know, that's not railway modeling. That's toy train modeling, and it kind of harks back to the concept of, you know, I mean, I've been to hundreds of model railway shops in my time, and chatting to people, and then someone will come in and they're looking to buy something for their kid, and they've got a choice between, I don't know, a Bachmann wagon, you know, let's say just a brake van, okay, just a standard BR brake van, okay. So they've got a choice between the Bachmann one, which looked really good, and the old Hornby one from, like, I don't know, the early 80s or something, you know, that's okay, but by comparison, but they end up buying the Hornby one because Hornby's toy trains, and you know, people have an idea of train sets in their head, and that's, like I say, that's how I felt that many of the layouts looked. And also, like I say, it's the gimmicks. Just in order to get noticed as a model railway, you've got to have gimmicks. You know, I'm going to build a model railway. I'm not going to have a load of gimmicks in it. You know, I want to have something that looks realistic, something that, you know, people can immerse themselves in and say, yes, that's what I used to experience when I used to go to the train station. So that's that. And then there's the debacle of what I call the scratch built challenge. As if they haven't got enough things to deal with, we're going to say, okay, we want you to take a bit of crap we found under the sink, or we're going to give you a high-heeled shoe and expect you to incorporate that into your model layout. And I remember watching that episode with the high-heeled shoe, the first one, and I remember looking at the people's face, and I ended up rewinding the video to watch it again because I watched it on the internet. And the look on their face was like, what the hell am I going to do with this? You know, the only time a shoe should be on your model railway layout is if you push it, you know, is if you're building the baseboards and you're sticking your foot on it so you can, you know, as a third hand so you can drill the screws in. You know, the only time you should have a high-heeled shoe on a model railway layout is if you're building a model railway layout in 1-to-1 scale with someone who's 126 meters tall, because that's how big they would be in, you know, in 4 millimeters to the foot. Okay, so this is something that doesn't belong on a model railway layout. They're throwing them a curveball just because, you know what, I think it'd be funny if we just chuck in this obscene, stupid thing that, you know, will just make their eyes pop out of their heads. That'll be fun. That'll be entertaining for the TV show, won't it? Oh, gosh. You know, it was ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. You know, the last one of the heats, children's goggles. Okay, you can make something out of a bottle, you know, out of a plastic bottle. Fair enough, plastic bottles, you can make use out of them. But goggles? You know, I could imagine what I'd be like. I'm not at all surprised in the last episode that someone gave up, you know, just didn't even bother with the scratch build challenge. They didn't even bother with it. Because, you know, they looked at it on a pragmatic level and said, okay, look, you know, we've got a choice here. We can either get the layout built or we can do this. We can't afford to waste a guy building something that's just no real use at all. We might as well just not bother with that at all, you know, and lose the points for it. Someone else gave up in, you know, on that, you know, part of the way through in one of the other heats. I don't blame them at all. You know, I mean, the fact that some, you know, the other shows, two out of 6 shows had things that weren't completely useless, that shouldn't be on that layout at all. You know, at least with the other ones, you could use bits there and try and make something work. You know, because a tube is a tube is a tube. You know, whether you get it, you know, whether you build a wagon and you need a small diameter one, so you go to the shop and buy some, you know, some denture tablets, you know, those little things you stick in glass and put the dentures in, you know, some Steradent, there you go, some Steradent tablets, the tube of one of them. That's perfectly fine for a small diameter tank. I measured one. I've got one over there somewhere, I think. So, you know, that a tube is easy, but when you've got a high heel tube, WTF? That's basically it. It's WTF is what would have gone through their minds. What am I going to do with this? And they have to come up with something. So, you know, I mean, is it really a surprise that in the first heat, when the high heel tube, someone basically just stuck a bit of foam around it and covered it in static grass? It's like, I don't know what I'd do with it. I'll just bury it. I'll bury it. I'll protect it. It's there, but it's buried in something, because you can't make anything use out of that at all. It's just silly, you know. So, and I actually feel sorry for Cathy Millatt and Steve Flint, because, you know, they're having to judge these things. You know, they are modelers. They know what it takes to build a model layout. You know, so they're having to push. They're having to sort of say really nice things to something that they know is substandard based upon the abilities of the modelers. You know, the modelers have got an ability that's up here, but they're having to produce something that's down here because of the time limit, you know, and things like that. They know this because they have higher standards themselves. So it's got to be hard for them as well. I mean, effectively, they've got to put their names to this program. And, you know, if you're watching this as someone who isn't into the hobby, they're going to say, wow, that's brilliant. They threw that together in 2 days. Oh, yeah, that's brilliant. You know, well, that's not what the people who build these layouts normally do. So, like I say, I wonder, I actually wonder, I mean, I don't know the answer to this, but I wonder if they were sort of saying, yeah, we're going to do this thing, we're going to that kind of thing. And then when they get there and they say, oh yeah, we've decided to put this scratch built challenge in there. And they're going to be like, what? Really? I don't, okay. And, you know, suddenly they find themselves having to judge what someone did with a high heel shoe on a layout, you know, and try and be complimentary about it when they're probably thinking in their heads that doesn't belong there. It's going to be interesting what they do, because I don't think I would be able to, you know. So was it entertaining? Yes, it was. I think we can certainly say that was true. I did enjoy it to a certain extent, but I also spent so much time biting my knuckles saying, oh gosh, I can't believe that, you know, that this was being, you know, the final, a perfect example of the final is where there wasn't enough time for the materials to set. So, you know, you had the riverway and the plaster hadn't set overnight as they had expected it to. Maybe it was, you know, too cold or too moist, you know, in the atmosphere or whatever. I don't know. But for whatever reason, you know, now this is like PVA glue. When you're putting ballasting on, you use PVA glue. You leave it a day to dry, or a couple of days, or 3 days to dry. And, you know, if it still moves, then, you know, you maybe stick a bit more glue on the top, PVA glue on the top. And, you know, and if it still moves, you leave it for another day or two, and, you know, that kind of thing. You just wait until it is done. But they didn't have the wait opportunity. There was no room to wait. It had to be done now, had to be done today, had to be done in the next 2 hours. Because if you don't get in this 2 hours, then the whole thing falls to pieces, you know. And so as a result, they're so focused having to fix that problem that you know, other things can't be dealt with, you know, because I'm quite convinced that every layer of what they're trying to achieve has been time budgeted. They've said, okay, we've got 2 hours for that, 3 hours for that, 2 hours for that, 4 hours for that, you know, that kind of thing. And you've got to get all the bits set up in a row. And if one of them goes wrong, you know, it's effectively, it's a bit like, you know, the domino things where you have like a big trail of dominoes and you flick it over and you get all the way around, you know. if any one of those dominoes fails, then the whole thing doesn't work. So they've got to, and unfortunately, there was room for things. I mean, I wouldn't be at all surprised to learn that, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and it was increments before it went end, because people couldn't get it done exactly on time. They would have had to fake a little bit for the show. So, yeah, was it entertaining? Yes. Was it railway modelling? Not really. Not really. Because yes, it's models and railways, but it's really not. It's not going to. It doesn't do justice to the hobby, and that's really what it comes down to. I don't think it did justice to the hobby, and I don't think it did justice to the modelers that were building these layouts, because they are going to have higher standards than what they were able to produce in that time frame, and for that, I think that's where it fails, in my opinion. And again, this is my opinion. I don't, whether you share it or not is up to you. Again, as you know, if you've watched my channel, I'm something of a purist. You do it properly or you don't do it at all. So it's a difficult thing. And of course, not only that, I suppose it is in the wording of the show. It's the Great Model Railway Challenge. It's a great challenge, and it features model railways. But it's basically Bake Off. It's the Great British Bake Off or whatever it is. With model railways instead. And it has that element of fabrication to it. I mean, I'm going to divert off, but it kind of flows from the same concept. One of the shows that I really, really hate is The X Factor. I really hate that show. I really, really hate Simon Cowell. I really don't. I just can't stand the guy. Let's forget the fact that he's an egotist and all that kind of stuff. He seems to be just a lousy person in general. My problem with him is the industry itself. Because if you look at, any proper TV show, it takes millions of pounds to put together a TV show. Let's just go with Doctor Who. I mean, now the quality is much better. Obviously, you used to have wooden sets and lots of stuff done in a quarry, but there was a budget and so on. So you do as best as you can with the budget. Well, making a period drama or making a normal drama, there's a drama that was filmed down the road from me, and I went and watched it, and it took hours and hours and hours to do the filming because they got a script, and they've got to get all these things properly set up, and the camera angles at the right place, and you got to get the lighting and the sound. And one of the show that was made around the corner from me was called Band of Gold, and it was about prostitution. And excuse me about the ambulance going by. So I went down and watched it. They were filming at 3 o'clock at night, and there was a scene where you've got if you imagine there's a road and then there's some shops and there's some prostitutes and they're chatting about something or other, and then a car pulls up and they lean in the window. Next thing, the blue lights flash and the car goes racing away because it's like, yeah, there's someone trying to pick up some hookers. Okay, so I think they did about 20 scenes. They tried that bit of filming 20 times, because what would happen is the car wasn't leaving at the right time, because what happened was they were trying to they would say, okay, go, kind of thing on the radio, but then the sound man could hear the okay, go in the background, and so it's like, no, we could hear it. So they tried going further across the street, but they need it to be timed on the dialogue of the actors. So, and it took about 20 scenes to get it right. And in the end, they just had to have someone, near the camera to just flash a light and say, go, That was it. You know, low tech option. But you know, and then eventually, and everyone was depressed. I remember watching, you know, watching the atmosphere, and everyone's like, ugh, it's not working again, you know, and everyone's depressed about it. And then suddenly they get it right, and suddenly the atmosphere's like, ding, and everyone's happy again. You know, it's like, right, let's get on with it, you know, that kind of thing. And the optimism was all back up again. The next scene they did was, you know, another lady in the dark, and the police car is going by, and she just sort of ducks behind in the shadow. The car goes by, and then she pops back out again. It was an incredibly short scene, maybe 3 or 4 seconds worth, you know, and that was done in one take. So it takes time and it takes effort to get this kind of thing done. Whereas the X Factor, what they do is they hire Anton Deck, and they hire 3 judges, and they stick them, and they hire a studio for the day, and they end up with a load of people lined up outside, all with the hope of what they want. Because they've been sold a lie. They've been sold that you can, you know, just kick around a football and be David Beckham, and you'll get loads and loads of money without any, you know, real effort. I mean, yes, there's athletic effort, obviously, but, you know, you'll become rich and famous, and it's a, you know, there's a shortcut to this. And all you have to do is turn up at a thing, and you just sing your heart out, and you'll end up with $1 million contract, and get rich and famous, and, you know, be able to buy all these things we think we need to keep us happy. Well, think about it in another way. There are 3 kinds of people that turn up for X Factor. Okay, there are the jokes. You know, they're the guy that, you know, that sings the Barbie song. Hey, Barbie, how are you doing? I'm a Barbie girl. I mean, you know, you've got that. These are the people that you point and laugh. You go, what an idiot! What a fool! You know, and you laugh at someone like that. They know it's coming. You know, they've been a spectacle for long enough. They thought, you know what, it'll be fun. Okay. Then you've got the ones, you know, that have a bit of talent. They can sing well and everything, but, you know, and then, you know, but they really haven't got quite enough. They're okay for going to a karaoke bar and doing a really good job, but they're never going to make it in the industry. And you got Simon Cowell that tells them exactly that. Yeah, you know, you got an okay voice, but you're never going to make it. You know, and so they go away, you know, disheartened by that. And then you've got the ones that actually have talent. And what happens is they get milled for, you know, they treat you like razor blades or condoms or something. They get used until they're useful. And when they've stopped making enough money, that's when they just get thrown away like the rest of the garbage, you know, like the rest of the stuff. This is how the industry works. And I can imagine that the streets around the studio are flowing with the mass hordes of broken-hearted people who went with a dream and just had it squashed by Simon Cowell. That's why I don't like the guy, you know. So it's cheap TV, and I think that this show is cheap TV. It's done on a budget. It's done on a time frame, because, of course, you know, if they had to pay someone to go out to Aberdeen Model Railway Club because that was the winner. So if they had to go out to Aberdeen Model Railway Club to film the team putting this layout together over 3 months, well, that's going to cost them a lot of money. Whereas all they have to do is hire a hall for a week, you know, or a week and a half or whatever it was to film this show, and then just get the people in, make the show, you know, and then they just spend the next 3 months editing it all together to make the show, you know, in an hour. So that's basically it. It's cheap TV. It's entertaining, but it's not really showing the hobby for what it really is. It's not showing the creativity. And for the people who watch this video, I know watching right now, because I can see I've got people in the live stream. For the people that are watching, you build model railway layouts. If you build model railway layouts, how long does it take? Do you really think that you would build a layout in 2 days? Would you really do that? And what do you think you would get in 2 days? Do you think it would be a Hornby Track Max, you know, nailed down to, you know, an 8 foot by 4 foot or something, you know, with a couple of little bits on it? You know, it would be something of that quality. You wouldn't get something of really fine quality. You wouldn't be getting the quality of something where you take months, weeks and months and years doing. So that's my opinion of it. I know it's horrible to say this, and like I say, I've got a lot of admiration for the modelers that took part in the show. Although I think what they produced wasn't fantastic, only because of the time limit, I still admire them for going on and doing the best they could under, difficult and I'm sure quite stressful circumstances as well. So I'm going to have a look at the side chat now and see what's being said here. So I seem to I seem to have a somewhat consensus. Yeah. Totally agree. It was aimed at us, the modeler. Christmas just around the corner, done for the manufacturer? Possibly. To be honest, I'm not sure about that, because it didn't really it didn't mention the word Hornby. I don't remember seeing the word Hornby or Bachman or whatever written. So maybe. Also thought it was trying style modeling, pretty much like I said, with the giraffe that pops, in and out. 2.5 days were ridiculous. Did enjoy watching the struggle. The scratch challenge, what was that all about? Again, let's create drama. I think that's what it was. Let's create drama. Instant drama. Let's give them, as if they haven't got enough pressure to deal with, let's chuck a bit more at them, just for the lols. Having worked with TV producers, the scratch reel challenge not surprised me one bit. Yeah. Good to see railway models on TV, but very flawed format. I agree. Yeah, great to see some of my Demius Society colleagues on the show as well. Apparently Jenny Kurt was going to do it, but they kept changing the format. Yeah. In my humble opinion, airtime for model railways was prime time on Friday evening. It's got to be good exposure for the hobby. Well, possibly. I mean, exposure for the hobby, perhaps, but exposure for this is what boys do. They throw something kind of gimmicky together. I don't know. That's not what I would want to be portrayed as. Yeah. Maybe the format will evolve into a 5-day challenge competition to enable higher standards of modeling to be achieved. I would like to see that. Read the X Factor contracts, absolutely disgraceful. Again, like I said, crushing. It's all because it's to make them money. So TV is entertained. Mass audience modeling is too creative and not really suitable for the subject. Good modelers though. Agreed. Let's use an analogy. Let's say it's going to be how to build, to take an old wreck of a car and make it a modern masterpiece. Like you've done it all up and you've done all the filing and filling and painting and all that kind of stuff. Do you think you could really do that in 2 days? I don't think so. You're talking 6 weeks, something like that, to really do it justice, to make something that actually works and actually looks right. And you've taken the engine out and taken it apart and cleaned it all up and polished it and things like that. I mean, you can't do that. So I mean, I will actually give a practical example. When I make a YouTube video, something like my Class 33 one or the renumbering one or something like that, I will have I'll have hours worth of footage that I've recorded. So, for example, give me half a second. Okay, make it a couple of seconds. So, I was at the Wigan show a couple of weeks ago, and I was demonstrating how to build a plastic wagon kit. And I had a lot of people that were really interested in it. I thought, you know what, I'm going to buy myself another one or two. I did buy 2. And I already had a third one that I was building because I got 9 of them in total. So this is one that I've been working on this week. Lid still needs to be done, but I've gone pretty much all the chassis work that's done now. Now, I think I've got about 8 hours worth of footage of me building this wagon kit, filing things down, you know, gluing things up, you know, showing all the little details, like for example underneath it's got all the extra work that's going on there. So you know, even the brake gear. So all this takes time and effort. That took, you know, and this is just a wagon kit. So when you've got so when I build a video, make a video, I'll do the modeling and I'll record all that. And then what I do is I don't want to make a video that's too long. If I make something that's 2 hours long, you know, then probably about half an hour in, you probably stop watching. Because although it might be good modeling, it gets a bit dry. You know, you got other things to be doing with your time. Because you may have opened up your YouTube, you know, subscriptions and found 15 videos that you might want to watch that day. So watching 3 hours of my video or 2 hours of my video is too much. And you may not even bother looking at it at all because it's like, yeah, that's 2 hours long. I haven't got time to watch all that. So you don't even bother watching. So I compress it down. So I take 8 hours of modeling and turn it into about 25, 30, 40 minutes, something around that time, you know, something that's easily digestible. And I do cuts and things like that in order to merge it all together to make it, you know, something that you can watch and something you can learn and something you can replicate yourself. So it takes a lot of effort to do that. So I've got to take that amount of footage and turn it into that amount of footage. And I've got to put, you know, so what I do is I write a script of what I did. So I watch my own video, I just skim through it. So I sort of note down and I write a script as I'm doing it. And then using my microphone and Audacity, I record what I said in that. But of course, whenever you're reading lines, you end up with bits where you blurb it out, you know. Hi, welcome to UK Diesel Electric. Hang on, let's try that one again. You end up doing a second take. So, you know, your mouth gets a bit dry, you have to take a drink or something like that. But speaking of that, let's take a drink. So I will make this, write the script, read the script out, edit it out until it's one solid piece of audio, because of course you want to get rid of that one where I flubbered my lines and did it there and took 3 takes to get another line. So I'll do that. So I'll edit that up and then get that ready, and then I will have the rest of. Then I'll have. I'll, you know, take the audio footage, that 8 hours worth, and then take a bit there and a bit there and a bit there and a bit there and do these little splices and merge them all together and then have blended, you know, transitions between them. And then I've got to trim all the audio to go with it as I'm working my way through. So it might take 8 hours for me to edit the video that goes with what you see on the screen. So it's 8 hours of footage, 8 hours of editing, plus, you know, all the other work that goes into it, you know, just the reading out to the writing the script, and, you know, all these things. These are layers upon layers upon layers of what is required to make a really good video, something that, you know, really gets to the meat and gravy of the thing, you know, really gets stuck right into the project you're trying to do. You're not rambling, you're not, you know, showing repetitive stuff, because you don't need to see me do it 3 times. You only need to see me do it once, and then just replicate, you know, do that another 4 times, you know, and that's all that's required. You know, that's 1. Now I just need to do another 3 to go with it. All that's in the dialogue. Boom, there you go. So that can just be in the audio commentary that goes with it. So I take a plastic wagon kit, turn it into, you know, something that's at this point still needs more work to be done, and then, you know, eventually it will look like this. And you can see how the paint job's quite patchy. Still not quite finished yet. Still needs the individual numbers putting on, and weathering, obviously, when it's finished. So all these layers, that's what's required to make, just to make a video for a wagon kit that's 25-30 minutes long. They've got to do the same, you know, they've got 3 days worth of footage, and they've got to compress it into an hour, about 45 minutes when you chuck in the adverts. Okay, so they've got to make it into a 45-minute show. Now imagine what it would have to be like if they gave them 3 months to do this and you film your own bits. You know, that would give justice to the proper railway modeling, but you know, to the high quality railway modeling, I mean, to the ability of the people that are on the show to produce something, because, you know, the whole point of it is you know, this is a competition. Which of these modelers are the best at this job? You know, now, yes, you can say, well, we just want you to build a model railway layout. Okay, well, we're going to build a model railway layout. That's fine. Well, no. Okay, we're going to have the fire and ice theme. Okay, so then they go and have a think about it, and they rattle out some ideas, and they try a few things, you know, all that kind of stuff. So that's where you know, I'm rambling and I'm going over my own thing. You know, it really comes down to, I don't think that that the show was fantastic. It was okay, it was entertaining, but I don't think it shows railway modeling in the best light. It doesn't show the modelers in the best light, in the best light that they have for doing things. You know, the way that they do things and the things that they can achieve. What they can achieve is not what they were able to achieve because of the time limit, and it really mainly comes down to time. You know, I'm sure that many of us wish we had an unlimited budget to build a model railway layout, and we could build so much more better things if we did. You know, if we won the lottery or something, you know, we could build an outstanding model railway layout if we had all the money to do it. Let's say, for example, you wanted to have a layout with overhead wires. Well, putting that stuff on your layout is really expensive. But if you had an unlimited budget, you could do that. Is it any surprise that none of the layouts in this show had overhead wires, even though some of them had some electric trains? So, like I say, that's really all of what it comes down to. So, feel free to leave a description what you think about the show, what you think about what I've said. Whether you agree with me or disagree with me, I don't mind. You know, the thing about the internet is you find plenty of people who disagree with you, and that's perfectly fine too. You know, I want to hear your opinions. Do you agree with me? Do you not agree with me? And if you do agree with me, why? If you don't agree with me, why? I want to know what you believe and why. That's what's important to me. So I hope you've enjoyed this little video. It's not been too long. Let's see what happens for us if there's a season 2. So enjoy your day, and hope you'll keep watching my channel. Bye bye.